Welcome to Slow Flow Express Yoga. A little bit of a shorter class this time and still hitting all the high points so our body gets nice and warm for our practice, and then get in some great functional strength and range of motion work, and then stretch it all out. We'll still have a little bit of time to relax at the end too. So as we begin today, let's start in standing mountain pose with our ankles right under our hips and our posture nice and tall, letting our shoulders relax back and down. And we'll soften our gaze or close our eyes, bringing our attention to our breath. As we feel our breath moving through our body, let's feel our body expanding with each inhale and relaxing with each exhale. And noticing how our body relaxes with these breaths. We can allow that breath to deepen a little bit so our inhales and exhales get a little longer. And let's take a little scan of our bodies, noticing how everything feels today, taking into account if we're recovering from any illness or injury or have any special concerns, and choosing as always to honor our bodies as we move and as we breathe. And now let's either lift our gaze or blink our eyes open and start off with some shoulder shrugs, shrugging shoulders up to our ears and back and down. Feeling any tension built up there in the neck, upper back, and shoulders, beginning to release with this movement. And then letting that go. All right, let's inhale, reaching arms overhead, and exhaling, hands through to heart center. Let's do a few of these. Just focusing in that breath and movement, coordinating. Inhaling with our reaches. And exhaling as we draw it down the center. And one more. Let's reach one more time overhead and leave our arms lifted this time, and add some side stretches, reaching one hand and then the other. Feeling that great stretch all along the sides. And then back to the center, we'll release hands behind us. For chest expansion, either interlacing or pressing palms toward each other. And we'll feel our shoulder blades reaching back and down, opening up the chest, stretching it out across the collarbones from shoulder to shoulder. And relaxing that effort. Let's inhale, reaching overhead, and swan dive as we fold it in. Inhaling for a half lift, feeling that extension of the spine and releasing down. Bringing hands to the mat, let's step back so that we're on hands and knees. Always the option to bring fists to the mat instead if that feels better for our wrist joints. And let's begin to work through some cat-cows. And back to neutral spine. Let's reach into spinal balance, pressing one heel back and the opposite fingertips reaching forward. Let's pause here for a moment, feeling that nice lift through the core. And then drawing elbow and knee together under the body. Inhaling as we reach and exhaling, drawing it in, curling the spine. Let's do a couple more. And then releasing it back to the mat. Now let's switch the other heel and opposite fingertips, pausing for a moment, stabilizing and lifting through the core, and adding the movement, elbow and knee come in together. Inhaling to reach, exhaling as we round the spine, and a couple more. And releasing it to hands and knees again. Let's release our hips back toward our heels for child's pose, resting forehead on the mat or on top of stacked hands or fists. Pausing for a moment here to check in with our breath, feeling our ribs expand out toward our legs with our inhale, and releasing away with our exhale. Reaching our hands forward, fully extending through our elbows. Let's dip from side to side, stretching into the back of the shoulder. And back to the center. Now walking our hands over to the right, resting deeply through that left side, and 2 breaths into our left ribs. Through the center again, and hands over to the left, resting deeply through the right side, and 2 breaths into the right ribs. And back to the center. For puppy pose, let's slide our hands forward, hips coming up the heels, chest relaxing toward the floor. Bringing hands a step back toward our body. Let's tuck toes and lift into downward facing dog. Taking some time here to pedal it out, stretching out the backs of the legs. And pressing up high onto the balls of both feet. Bending our knees a lot as we push our hips farther back away from our hands. And taking little baby steps, let's walk our way up to the top of the mat, coming into forward fold. A nice bend in our knees, enough to let our ribs rest on our legs. Let's nod our head yes. And then shake her head no. And let it relax there. Fingertips to opposite elbows. Let's shift from one foot to the other, deepening that stretch in the legs. And back to the center again, releasing hands. Let's bend our knees a little deeper, reaching wide and lengthening our spine and pressing to the top, reaching overhead and then letting arms rest down by our sides. Let's step back to face the long edge of our mat. Toes wide, knees wide, reaching up into 5-pointed star and flowing through moonflower, steep knee bend as we hug elbows in. Inhaling to reach and exhaling as we draw it in. On the next one, let's turn it into sunflowers, a big circle with the arms, deeper hinge into the hips. Enjoying that deeper stretch, inner thigh, outer thigh. Taking big inhales as we sweep up and big exhales as we sweep down toward the floor. And a couple more here. And then letting arms rest by our sides. Let's pivot to face the front and step it up to the top of the mat. Inhaling as we reach arms overhead. Swan diving to fold it in. Inhaling for half lift and releasing down. Right foot stepping to the back for lunge. Followed by the left, downward facing dog. Pulling forward into plank pose. Let's release our knees down, shifting and lowering for crocodile. Relaxing to the mat and peeling head and chest up, cobra. Releasing down again, let's tuck toes. Pressing up and back to down dog. Right foot stepping to the top of the mat for lunge. Left foot pressing up, forward fold. Reaching wide, let's press to the top and overhead, circling as we sit into chair and returning to mountain. Swan diving to fold. Inhaling, half lift and releasing. Left foot stepping to the back for lunge. Right foot stepping back, downward facing dog. Pulling it forward for plank. Knees down, shifting and lowering for crocodile, releasing to the mat, peeling up for cobra, and back down. Tucking toes, let's press up and back to down dog. Left foot stepping to the top, lunging. Right foot pressing up for forward fold. Reaching wide and pressing all the way overhead. Circling as we sit into chair and returning to the top and letting arms relax by our sides. Let's take a moment here, maybe some more shoulder rolls, feeling that posture lift nice and tall. And let's find cactus arms. Drawing those elbows back, shoulder blades back. And now let's step our left foot back for warrior one. Feeling ourselves press strong through both legs, nice and lifted through the front of the body. And opening it up, let's come into warrior two pose. Feeling ourselves open up the hips away from that front knee. Chest is lifting tall. Tailbone relaxing. Let's bring it back to warrior one, pivoting to face the front again. And stepping it up to the top of the mat, letting arms relax down by our sides. All right, let's find those cactus arms again. Fingertips pointing straight up, drawing elbows back, shoulder blades back, nice and tall in the body. And now let's step our right foot back for warrior one. Super strong through our legs, nice and lifted through the core muscles. Chest lifting high. Opening it up, warrior two. Feeling those hips open up, front knee, reaching toward the little toe side of the foot. And returning to warrior one, reaching arms overhead, body facing forward, still lifting strong through those core muscles. And let's step it up to the top again, letting arms relax down by our sides. Let's draw hands behind us for chest expansion, our choice again, interlacing or pressing palms toward each other. Feeling the shoulder blades open back. Letting that go. Let's inhale, reaching overhead. Swan diving as we fold it in. Inhaling for half lift and releasing down. Let's step both feet back into downward facing dog. Spending a couple breaths here. Let's feel ourselves press forward with our hands so that our chest reaches back, our hips release back. We can pedal it out again if we like, heels reaching alternately towards the floor. And let's step our left foot all the way to the top of the mat and open it up into Warrior Two. Finding that strong Warrior Two pose, nice and stable. Let's find our side angle stretch, reaching forward, elbow to knee or hand to the mat. Hips relaxing down as the body opens up. Pressing really strong through our legs to keep the pose light. Returning to Warrior Two and reaching back for Reverse Warrior. Feeling the spine lengthen as the shoulders relax. And coming back through Warrior Two again. Straightening up our front leg, let's crease into that front hip, lengthening over our front leg and turning it over for triangle. Feeling that bottom hip tuck in as our top shoulder opens. Bringing arms up to a T. Letting that back hip relax so the hips are parallel to the floor and reaching back for reverse triangle. Softening in the knees, relaxing tailbone and shoulder blades toward the floor. And bringing arms to a T again, let's bend into our front leg. Let's flow through these four poses together now. So reach forward, side angle stretch, pausing just for a breath, coming up to Warrior Two, and reaching back to reverse. Pausing for just a breath, returning to Warrior Two, straightening it up, reaching into triangle. Pausing for a breath. Lifting it up, arms to a T and reaching back for reverse triangle. And arms to a T, returning to Warrior Two. Let's flow through this 2 more times on our own. Side angle to reverse warrior, and then triangle to reverse triangle. Move at our own pace, allowing ourselves to flow through the poses. Enjoying the stretches and the strengthening. And we'll meet back together in Warrior Two pose. Feeling ourselves reestablish the strength in this pose. And then straightening it up, let's relax hands and pivot to face the long edge of the mat, pointing our toes forward. Bending in at the hip crease, let's fold it forward, bringing our hands underneath our shoulders with a nice long spine. It feels just like half lift. Right hand down, let's twist open with the left. Coming through the center, left hand down, twisting open with the right. And back to the center. Releasing our head toward the floor, walking our hands back through our legs. Letting our head relax toward the floor, let's nod our head yes. And shake our head no. Now back to the center. Walking our hands forward again so they're under our shoulders. And then walking it around to the front of the mat. Let's step back into our downward facing dog. Shifting forward into plank pose. And back into down dog. And let's do 2 more. And back. Last time to shift forward. And back. Stepping our right foot to the top of the mat, coming into our warrior 2. Feeling ourselves press strong through the legs, lengthening up through the body. Let's work into side angle stretch, front to elbow resting on the front leg or down to the floor. Letting our hips rest a little deeper as we open it up through that top side of the body. And bringing it back to warrior 2. Reaching back for reverse warrior. And coming back to warrior 2. Straightening through our front leg, creasing into that front hip. Let's lengthen over the front foot and turn it over, triangle pose. Tucking in our bottom hip, opening up our shoulder. Returning to the top, arms to a T. Back hip is relaxing down, hips are parallel to the floor, and we reach back into our reverse triangle. Feeling our tailbone and shoulder blades relaxing down. And bringing arms to a T again. Let's bend into that front knee. We're in warrior 2 pose, and we'll flow through these now. Bringing it forward, side angle stretch, holding for a breath. Bringing it to the top and reaching back for reverse. And just a breath here. And to warrior 2. Straightening front leg. Let's lengthen it out, triangle pose. And to the top. Hips settle and reaching back, reverse triangle. And arms to a T. Bending into the front knee, warrior 2. Let's do 2 more rounds, flowing on our own, following our breath. Feeling ourselves move gracefully from one pose to the next. One more round. We'll meet back together in our warrior 2. Feeling ourselves reestablish the strength of the pose, pressing through our legs, lifting through our body, softening through our gaze. And straightening the leg, relaxing our arms. Let's pivot to face the long edge of the mat again, toes wide, knees wide. Bending deep into our knees, let's reach out to the sides for sun pose. Nice lift through the core, nice and tall with our heart center. Shoulders relaxing, using our glutes to open our knees wide to the sides. And then releasing hands to our legs. Let's lean into our arms and take a little twist to one side. Through the center and to the other side. And back to the center again. Let's get a standing frog pose while we're here. Forearms to thighs. Letting the hips drop toward the knees, but not deeper than the knees. And continuing to open knees wide with the glute muscles. Now pressing it up to the top. Let's pivot to face the front. Taking hands to the mat and stepping it back for downward facing dog. Let's pull it forward into plank and pause for a breath. And sending it back to down dog. And let's do that one more time, bringing it forward for plank, pausing for a breath. And sending it back. Now let's take a baby step forward with our feet and back with our hands. Forward with our feet, back with our hands, and keep going till we get somewhere close to the middle of the mat. And as we find that forward fold, let's let our head hang towards the floor one more time. If we like to nod our head or shake our head, let's do that here. And inhaling for half lift. Let's pause in this half lift and shift forward and back in our feet. And find the middle. Pressing strong through our legs. Engaging through the core, lifting with our heart center. Let's reach arms back with palms down and drawing shoulder blades together on our back. Sweeping arms forward for chair pose, hips reaching back as our heart center lifts. Shoulders relax away from our ears. And pressing to the top, reaching overhead. And letting arms relax down. All right. Let's come to standing posture here. Feet right under our hips. Let's draw hands to our heart center. Gently pressing palms toward each other so we feel a little gentle stretch right at the shoulder joint. And then let the effort relax. Let's shift over into our right leg and make a kickstand with our left leg. Heel to the side of our shin, feeling nice and lifted in our body. And for tree pose, we can choose to stay here, or we can choose to lift toes, or bring that foot above or below our knee joint. Whatever we choose, let's feel ourselves pressing strong through that standing leg, opening our left knee out wide to the side. And then nice and easy, if we've lifted that left foot, let's put it back down. And now shifting over into the left leg, kickstand with the right, heel to the inner shin. Feeling ourselves stand nice and tall, right knee opening out wide. And our choice, staying here, toes come up or foot above or below the knee. Pressing strong into our leg as we open that right knee wide. Continuing to lift tall through our posture. And then releasing nice and easy back to standing. Inhaling, let's reach overhead. Swan diving, let's fold it in. Inhaling for one more half lift and releasing down. Hands to the mat, let's step back onto our knees, run hands and knees. And let's draw some great big figure eights with our hips and our shoulders. And then switching the direction. And then back to the center again. All right, for seated postures, let's rest over onto one hip and bringing our legs around to the front. Beginning our seated postures and butterflies, soles of the feet together, sitting bones coming either to sit directly on the floor or on the front edge of any support we may have chosen. Letting our knees rest wide, lifting tall through our body, relaxing through our shoulders. We'll spend a few breaths here. We can choose to stay lifted in our posture or to hinge forward, stretching deeper into the hips. Whichever we choose, let's take about 5 breaths here. With our next inhale, let's lift ourselves up. Stretching our legs out in front, staff pose, adjusting as needed so our sitting bones are still the foundation. A softness in our knees, flexing through our feet. Let's bring hands beside us and press into the floor or toward it as we lift tall through our body. Really working on those postural muscles here, feeling those muscles of the mid and upper back, lifting us up. And letting that effort go. Let's return to that butterfly posture with our feet. Adding a twist here, let's inhale nice and tall and take a twist to the right. Drawing back with our right ribs, our right shoulder, and letting our gaze follow along toward the back. Through the middle. Inhaling nice and tall, and now to the left, feeling the left ribs, the left shoulder reaching back. Nice and tall through the body. Our gaze following along. And back to the center again. If we are sitting on a blanket or pillow, let's scoot off a bit and move that over to the side. Scooting forward on our mats, let's take hands behind a knee and gently roll down onto our backs. And then drawing both knees toward our chest. Allowing ourselves to draw shoulders down into the mat. And relaxing. And then the muscles along the sides of our back. Reaching down towards the floor. And letting it go. And then the muscles of our hips. And releasing. Let's relax our feet to the floor and place hands under our hips. So we're sitting on the backs of our hands. And for variation on legs up the wall, let's stretch our legs up high, adjusting hands so that we are both comfortable and able to rest our legs in the air with very little effort. As we let our legs rest up in the air, if we like, we can do some ankle circles, or pointing and flexing, or we can simply be still. Bending our knees, feet coming back to the mat. Releasing our hands so our arms are beside us now. Let's lift into bridge pose, pressing into shoulder blades and feet and the backs of the arms, lifting our hips high and gently hugging our knees toward the center. And letting it back down. Drawing both knees to chest again and allowing a gentle rock from side to side. And back to the center. Let's release our left foot to the mat and cross our right ankle on top. Stretching that outer right hip, we can stay here. Or if we like, folding left knee toward the chest, with arms resting beside us or interlacing fingers behind our left thigh. Letting our shoulders relax. Our right knee releasing away from the body. And letting that side go. Right foot on the mat, crossing the left ankle on top and choosing to stay here. Or if we like, right knee folding toward the chest, arms on the mat or interlacing behind the right thigh. Shoulders relaxing down toward the mat. Left knee releasing away from our body. And then letting this side go. Let's draw both knees toward our chest, drawing some big circles with our knees. And taking those circles the other direction. And back to the center again. Let's place our feet on the mat and separate them about mat width. And allow our knees to go from the right side all the way over to the left side. We can keep this movement just in our legs. Our hips may stay pretty quiet as we move knees from side to side. That's going to stretch into the connections of the hips. If we like, we can let our knees drop a little farther, the opposite hip coming up off of the floor. And if we do that, it adds a little twist and also a little quad stretch. So whichever one we choose, let's do a few more. And then back to the center. One last time, drawing knees to chest and hugging it in. And as we release, let's find our way to our final relaxation, stretching out so that our body is able to relax completely. As we find a position for our body that allows us to rest with as little effort as possible, let's allow our minds the same opportunity to enjoy the spaces in between thoughts and releasing the need to follow any particular one for Shavasana. Let's begin to bring our awareness back. Initiating some gentle movements with our body. Deepening our breath. If we like, with our next inhale, let's reach arms overhead to stretch it out. And then melting into the floor with our exhale. And gently rolling to our side. As we feel ready, pressing ourselves up to seated position. Drawing hands to our heart center. Taking a moment to acknowledge our investment in our wellness and in our practice. Offering gratitude for the opportunity to share the practice together. Thank you so much for sharing your practice with me. Namaste.